Welcome to Coffee, Culture, and the Capital with Sophia and Greg. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We have a lot going on this week. So we are going to be talking or giving you guys an update about the March for Life, as well as there is here at the state legislature, they are taking a stand against AI-generated child pornography and exploitation. So we're going to dive into that. We've had a religious freedom win as Newsom has failed to force a California church to abandon their biblical beliefs about human sexuality. Another kind of good situation we have some updates on is a Christian baker filed a brief with the California Court of Appeals after refusing to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding, similar to things we've seen go down in Colorado. But so first, it's been a busy month here at California Family Council. We've been traveling a lot. We've been keeping up with sessions starting. We just had a webinar this week, actually, just a couple days ago, about why Christians need to be involved in politics. So if you haven't seen that yet, go check out our YouTube page to see that. But one of the trips we were on is myself and then Jonathan Keller, the president of California Family Council, was recently at the March for Life in Washington, D.C. So I just wanted to show you guys a quick clip from that.
Hello, Facebook and YouTube. It's Jonathan Keller.
It's Sophia Lori.
We are here in Washington, D.C. You can see the awesome Washington Monument behind us. It is cold. It is snowy. We are here for the 51st annual March for Life. And Sophia, I'm excited because today is awesome. It's been amazing to be here with tens of thousands of pro-lifers from around the country. But if you are not with us today, you do get to join us in just 3 months, yes. April 22nd.
Yeah, April 22nd at the California State Capitol, we will be marching for life. So if you're not here today, you got to join us then. It's going to have great speakers, a great rally. We're going to make sure our legislators know that we're pro-life in California, but we're looking forward to it. But for now, what are we going to go do right now?
We're going to go March for Life. God bless you guys. Thanks to all of our amazing friends at the National March for Life, the President Jeannie Mancini, Hannah Gouch, Catherine Olahan, Aaron Getz, so many other wonderful people there. So many pro-lifers from all over the country are here saying that regardless of who is in the White House, we're going to keep marching, we're going to keep speaking up, and we hope you'll join us on April 22nd.
We'll see you there.
So that was really loud because it was, first of all, snowing, tons of people there, but we were up on stage just trying to record that video real quickly for all of you all to see. But Greg, you weren't with us in DC. You were kind of holding down the fort at the Capitol, but you didn't get a March for Life in DC. But what do you get to, or where do you get to March for Life pretty soon?
That's right. We are having our annual March for Life here on April 22nd. If you haven't been out before, I think this is our fifth time. Mm-hmm. We have done this, and it's great. There's some great speakers who come. We have a big time of worship. Last year was really cool. There's actually an abortion clinic right across the street from the Capitol. And we had a time of going over in front of that abortion clinic. It's a Planned Parenthood, and praying and for all the women who, are vulnerable to abortion, and many times, they don't think they have anywhere else to turn but to Planned Parenthood. So we're trying to provide them with an alternative. We are speaking up. And this time at our March for Life, we're really going to highlight the work like we always do, but we're going to really highlight it of the work of the pro-life pregnancy care centers here in California. Do you know there are around between 160 and 180 pro-life pregnancy care centers and clinics. That is more than abortion clinics in California. The legislature doesn't like them very much. They're constantly trying to slander them, telling everybody that they're fake and that they try and harm women. But they're doing the exact opposite, right? They're offering women an alternative from having an abortion. There's not a whole lot of options out there if you're alone and pregnant. You can't turn to Planned Parenthood for help to have your baby. So excited about that.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So save the date, April 22nd. Pay attention to our social media, our website, all that. We'll keep you updated with details. But like Greg said, there's going to be a lot going on that day. But now more into the news stuff. So, Greg, the state legislature, they're doing something that we're happy about at this point. We'll see where it kind of goes, but they're taking a stand against AI generated child pornography and exploitation. Maybe can you explain to everyone listening what this whole AI generated child pornography is?
Well, if anybody of you are familiar with all the advancements in artificial intelligence, Chat GPT is a program actually we use sometimes. Helps with doing research and writing. Well, that program also creates photographs. And you just say, hey, I want a photograph of this, and it creates it right before your eyes. And it's not really drawing an original. It's actually going out on the internet and taking images out there and then recreating them. And so you can imagine if you are a sick individual and you want to create pornography, you can actually create child pornography. And it just goes out there and scrapes pictures of children and creates its own artificial child in pornographic situations for those sick individuals who are consuming that kind of stuff. And there's no laws against it. Like, there's laws for possession of child pornography. If you get caught with child pornography, there's severe penalties. But what do you do with an image that's generated, by a computer, scraping images off the internet? So far, that's not illegal. And so this bill is being introduced by Assemblyman Mark Bierman from Palo Alto. And there's about 3 or 4 of them that have been introduced, all dealing with artificial intelligence related to fake images, pornographic images. And one of the bills is actually dealing with something called deep fakes, right? These are videos or photographs that are artificial. It's generated by the computer, but it sticks people that are recognizable, like you and me, and it makes people say things and do things and pictured in ways that are sexual or pornographic, right? And so there's a bill introduced to ban that as well. It's AB 1856, introduced by Assemblyman Tri Tai. That's 1856. And it's going to outlaw any type of fake images that are created of other people in pornographic situations. And this is all of a sudden becoming national news. We had a very famous person. Sophia told me about this today. Why don't you tell us about what famous person just got turned into a pornographic image?
Yeah, so it was Taylor Swift, and I tend to keep up with what's going on with Taylor Swift and all that stuff. And so this happened to her. They used the AI and the deep fake and all that to create these pornographic images, new images of Taylor Swift. So I know from the news reports, it looks like she's looking into potentially pursuing legal action. The White House has now spoken out about it and saying this is not okay, and that there's potentials looking into federal law to kind of get rid of this or try to ban it. But so politically, we might not agree with Taylor Swift 99% of the time, but she's one of the most well protected, one of the richest, most well known women in the world. And if this can happen to her, it can truly happen to anybody. She luckily has the resources to push back, but hopefully this kind of wakens up everyone at the state capitol and gets them to get on the side of this bill and protect children and things that are these AI images being created, putting children in harm. So
or
False,
anybody in harm, like
exactly.
you and I. I mean, talk
Yes.
about slandering someone. I mean, there's something about falsely saying something about someone, but what if you put together a video that looks like you saying or doing something that you never did? I mean, that's pretty spooky.
Hmm. So we will keep you updated with what is going on with the state legislature and this AI situation. Also, follow along at californiafamily.org at our watch list where we have all the bills we're watching and they're constantly being updated on there. But so the next thing, a religious freedom win. That was really exciting to see in California. As I mentioned it in the beginning, Newsom officials, they in this win, ultimately they were gonna try to force a California church to abandon their biblical beliefs about human sexuality. And the case, they won it. And so, Greg, you want to kind of dive into everything that went on and kind of the what they forced the preschool and the food situation and all of that?
This case, Dean Broyles with the National Center for Law and Policy, and our friends at Alliance Defending Freedom, and also another group called Advocates for Faith and Freedom. They all defend the religious liberty of churches and organizations. And there was this church who started a preschool. It was called the Church of Compassion down in El Cajon area, which is down in San Diego County. And they were participating in a government program to provide free lunches for the kids at preschool. They serve really low-income kids, a lot of them, new immigrants to the United States. But there was and so they were receiving state money. And sometimes what happens when you receive state money, the state, whether it's the state government or the federal government, they got strings attached, right? They say, well, if you take this money, then you have to do this or that, right? And this is kind of dangerous for Christian organizations, because what if they start forcing you to do something goes against your biblical values? Well, that's what happened in this case. Recently, the federal government, the Biden administration, has started redefining Title IX, which is regarding sex discrimination, and it changed the definition of what sex meant, right? This bill was passed back in the 1960s, and it simply said you can't discriminate based on sex, and sex meant biological sex, like clear distinctions between men and women. You can't discriminate against them, right? Well, the church doesn't have a problem generally with that. But they changed the word sex to also mean sexual orientation and gender identity, right? And so what that meant is the biblical values that people have regarding same-sex behavior, their values regarding what it means to be a man and a woman, right? Separating bathrooms, using pronouns, dress codes. Now those all run in conflict with this new definition of sex. So when the federal government changed that, here in California, the Department of, what does it say? It was a particular department, California Department of Social Services. They tried to force this church to completely change all of their practices regarding sex and gender. And the church said, well, no, we can't do that. We would be violating our biblical principles. So they ended up suing, and this is part of the Newsom administration, and they sued. And when the state gets sued, Rob Bonta, who's the attorney general, is supposed to come out and defend, the State Department, but they didn't because they realized they had violated the Constitution. And because even though Title IX, this new definition, Title IX, says you can't discriminate based on gender identity and sexual orientation, we have a law that trumps that particular law. It's called the U.S. Constitution, the First Amendment. And the First Amendment says you cannot discriminate against a church who is simply practicing their faith. And that's what happened. And this is a great quote from the ADF attorney in this case. He said, ironically, in the name of combating discrimination, government officials have excluded the church and the preschool from serving the El Cajon community based solely on their religious beliefs and exercise. So this is antithetical to the First Amendment's promise of religious freedom, and it only hurts the needy families and children. So this is a great victory. And what it says is that if the state's handing out money for the poor and they're giving it to nonprofits to distribute, they can't discriminate against a church because they don't like their religious beliefs on sexuality. So thank goodness that this church stood up to them and didn't just cave, because that's what sadly happens a lot of times. These nonprofits, the state government says you got to do something, and they said, okay, I guess so. But so that was the victory in this case. So great job, Dean Broyles and ADF. And this means that it establishes this type of principle for the entire state. So if you are a church out there and you are accepting government money for a social program, know that the state cannot force you to change your policies, on hiring, on pronouns, on what you say, on the content of what you say, especially if it's religious based. So
Yeah, that was a great win. Like Greg said, stand up for your religious value or your biblical values, your religious freedom. The state doesn't have the right to violate your religious freedom. And as Greg mentioned, we have that First Amendment right. So this puts a precedent in place, and it's a great win. Another court case that's going on, and it's been going on for a while. Back in 2018, California Family Council actually helped organize a prayer rally around this case and this situation, but in Bakersfield. And we've talked about this case before, and the reason we're bringing it back up is because we have some updates on it. But in Bakersfield, a Christian baker refused to bake a cake for a same-sex wedding. And if you've heard of something like this before, this has happened in Colorado a couple times with a baker out there, and ADF has been winning those cases with him. But so it's happening here in California, and the Christian baker, they filed a brief with the California Court of Appeals. So Greg, what's going on with that brief?
Yeah, so this is a particular baker who designs cakes, right? And you can come in there and you can ask for a cake to celebrate particular things you want to celebrate, right? But she has, like anybody, there are limits to what anyone would agree to design a cake for. Like she will, and this is from the article on our website. And it says that she will not design cakes that celebrate divorce, display violence, that glorify drunkenness or drug abuse, that contain any sexual content, or present gory, demonic, or satanic images, right? Because just like an artist or somebody who writes for a living, just because they're out in the public arena and they're selling their services, doesn't mean you give up your right to decide what type of message you want to send out or what kind of things you want to celebrate. And weddings are all about celebrating, right? And so no one should be forced to celebrate something they don't agree with. And so, but here in California, they consider that's discriminatory. They don't want a baker to be able to make that decision when it comes to same-sex weddings, right? But the first case, this already went to court, and Kathy Miller, who is the baker, she won. But the state's not given up, and so they have now appealed that loss to the 5th Appellate District State Court. And so they filed another brief. And so this is a continuing, ongoing case Similar to something that happened in Colorado, the same exact scenario. It went all the way to Supreme Court, and each time he has won the case. There was actually also in Colorado a web designer who wanted to create websites for married folk, but didn't want to do same-sex weddings, and she actually also won the Supreme Court. So this is still a big debate. I'm glad that she's standing up. Sadly, what's happening with her is she's experiencing threats. She's had sexual violence. People call her up and threat her with sexual violence. They broken into her car. And just recently, one of her employees was assaulted behind the bakery by a man who referred to this case. So she is enduring a lot of persecution. So we need to be standing up as a community for people like this. No one should be forced, no matter who they are, to celebrate anything that they don't want to. And that includes people who don't want to celebrate Christmas or a Christian holiday or anything to do with Jesus. Like, we wouldn't go into a baker and demand a Jesus celebratory cake. And they said, I'm not really Christian. I'm not really gung-ho about Christianity. I'm an atheist. So I don't want to do that. And the law protects people who have that opinion. No one should be forced. So anyway, I hope that people really do change their minds and the government starts persecuting Christians like this.
Yeah, and she's honestly an inspiration. Christians, that's how you should be living out your life. The Bible is very clear that marriage is between man and a woman, and we need to be living our lives out like that. We need to be like this baker and saying it for what's true. And again, she's not saying that if someone identifies as a homosexual, they can come in and buy a cookie from her bakery. She's not saying they can't do that. They can do that, but she's not going to make a wedding cake to celebrate a marriage that she biblically doesn't believe in or agree with. And I think all Christians need to be standing up for this and sticking true to what's right. Because again, the Bible is very clear on this. And I feel like we're in a time where people are wavering on this issue or thinking it's not that big of a deal, but it's a biblical issue. So I think that even goes along the lines of, as a Christian, you shouldn't be attending a same-sex wedding. That shows that you are there and affirming that union. And again, that's not what the Bible says. The Bible is very, very clear that God made marriage as a beautiful thing between a man and a woman. But that is all we have for you this week. So tune in again next time so we can give you all an update on what's going on, as well as things with the legislative session are going to be getting busier and busier, and we're going to start to see more committee hearings and more bills being voted on that we're watching. So keep tuning in every week to learn more about that and get updates.
Sounds good. Until next time.